Before we start, wherever you are, however the day has gone, just take one slow breath. There's nothing to fix in the next few minutes, nothing to optimize. You don't have to sit up straighter or take notes. You can just listen. This is the kind of video you can put on while you make tea. And that's exactly how I'd like you to hear it, because I think I know a little about why you're here. Somewhere behind you, there's a small graveyard of good intentions. The planner you bought in January, blank past the second week. The app with the little flame icon you slowly grew to dread. The morning routine that lasted 4 days. The thing you swore this time you'd actually keep up. Until the one day you didn't and somehow couldn't pick it back up again. And after enough of those, a quiet sentence moved into the back of your mind and made itself at home. Maybe the problem is me. Maybe I just don't have the discipline. So let me say the thing I most want you to hear right at the top, before any explaining. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not missing some gene for willpower that everyone else got. The reason you can't stick to things is not a flaw in you. It's a flaw in the method you were handed. And once you see how that method actually works against your own brain, the whole story about your character quietly falls apart. You know the moment I mean. It's late. You told yourself you'd do the thing, the workout, the pages, the early night. And now there's this little negotiation running in your head. I'll start properly on Monday. I've had a hard week. One day won't matter. I'm just not a disciplined person. And the more you have that argument with yourself, the more tired you get, and the more it feels like proof. See, I can't even win an argument with myself. That loop, that nightly courtroom, where you're both the accused and the judge, that's not a willpower deficit. We're about to see what it actually is. Here's what the science actually says, in plain language. A habit is not a decision you keep failing to make. A habit is something your brain has automated so it no longer needs a decision at all. Researchers like Wendy Wood at USC estimate that around 43% of what we do on a given day isn't chosen in the moment. It's habitual, run on autopilot while our attention is somewhere else. And the part of the brain doing that running isn't the deliberate, effortful, willpower part at the front. The work of Van Grabiel at MIT shows that as a behavior repeats in a stable setting, control hands off to a deeper structure, the basal ganglia, which bundles the whole sequence into one automatic routine triggered by a cue. Sit with what that means. The thing you've been trying to force with willpower is supposed to end up running without willpower. Willpower is the scaffolding, not the building. So when someone tells you the answer is just to want it more, to grit harder, they're asking the wrong part of your brain to hold a job it was never designed to hold. No wonder it gets tired. It's like trying to power your house by pedaling a bike when there was a wire to the grid the whole time. Think of it like a path through a field. The first time you cross, there's no trail. Every step is effort. You're pushing grass aside, choosing each footfall. That's willpower. But walk the same line, in the same place, enough times, and the grass lies down. A path appears. And once the path is there, you don't decide to take it. You just take it. That's a habit. Forcing yourself is the work of those first crossings. But forcing was never meant to be the whole journey. It was meant to wear the path so the walking gets easy. The standard model of discipline gets this exactly backwards. It tells you to keep forcing, forever, at full strength. It never lets a path form. I'll tell you how I learned this, because I didn't read it first. I lived the wrong version for years. I was the person with the color-coded system and the 5 a.m. alarm and the streak I was terrified to break. And for a while it worked, in the way that holding your breath works. I'd build a 30-day chain, miss one day because life happened, and feel like I'd lost a month. Then I'd quit, not for a day, for months, and add another headstone to that graveyard. I genuinely believed I was lazy. I had a wall of evidence. What I didn't see was that every one of those collapses had the same shape. And the shape wasn't me. It was the system. The same trap, springing the same way every time. The day I stopped blaming my character and started looking at the machinery was the day things actually began to change. Quietly. without the war. So let's name the machinery, gently, because it isn't a villain, it's just a bad design we all inherited. The dominant model of discipline says, grind harder, never miss a day, protect the streak, and shame yourself when you slip. And the centerpiece, the streak, feels wonderful, right up until it doesn't. Here's the quiet problem. A streak doesn't only reward consistency, it punishes any break with total loss. 47 days, miss one, back to zero. And there's a reason that hurts so much more than it should. Dopamine, which we tend to call the pleasure chemical, is really, as Wolfram Schultz's research showed, a teaching signal. It tracks the gap between what you expected and what you got, and it shifts onto the cue that predicts reward. So that little rising number trains your brain to chase the number itself. The proxy quietly eats the goal. And when the streak snaps, the same loop runs in reverse and hands you a hit of loss. That's not weak character. That's a predictable result of wiring your motivation to something brittle. So here is the big reframe. The one idea this whole channel is built on. Sticking to things was never a willpower problem. It's a design problem. You don't need to force yourself harder down a path that keeps washing out. You need to design a path that holds. And those are genuinely different activities. Forcing is something you do to yourself. It's effortful, it's adversarial, and it runs out exactly when you need it most, on the bad days. Designing is something you do for yourself, once, calmly, in advance, and then it keeps working whether or not you feel like it. The hustle model is all force and no design. It hands you a system built for your best self and then blames your character every time your ordinary, tired, human self shows up instead. We're going to flip that. Less forcing, more designing. And the governing principle falls right out of it. There's a well-documented bias called the planning fallacy, Kahneman and Tversky's work, where we consistently plan for the ideal version of ourselves, rested, motivated, unhurried. We commit to the hour-long workout and the full evening ritual, and on the good day we make the plan, it all feels reasonable. But your life isn't lived in best days. It's lived in tired days, busy days, sad days, and the great and remarkable middle. So here's the contrast that changes everything. Forcing designs for your best day and punishes every other one. Designing builds for your worst day and lets the good days take care of themselves. A system that only works when you're at your best isn't a system, it's a fair weather hobby. The real question is never, how do I perform on a good day? Anyone can do that. The question is, what still runs on the worst day of your month? Because consistency over a year is made almost entirely of how you handle the bad days, not the good ones. Let me make that concrete, because it sounds abstract until you see it. Picture two people who both want to start running. The first one forces it. 5 kilometers every morning, no excuses. She feels great for 4 days, then misses day 5 because of a late night, decides the week is blown, and by day 9 she's quit. Classic. Now the second one designs it. Her habit isn't run 5 kilometers, it's put on my running shoes and step outside. That's the whole bar. Some days she runs, the shoes were just the start. The genuinely awful days, she puts the shoes on, stands in the cold for a minute, comes back in, and counts it. That sounds pointless. It is the opposite of pointless. She's keeping the path warm. She's not relying on motivation she might not have. She's relying on a design so small that I'm too tired stops being a valid excuse, because nobody is too tired for 1 minute. 3 months later, one of these people is a runner. It isn't the one with more discipline, it's the one with the better design. So how do you actually design instead of force? You start with friction. And again, this is research, not vibes. Wendy Wood's work shows our behavior follows the cues and the effort in our environment far more than it follows our intentions. Shorten the distance to a good behavior and you get more of it. Add a few steps of friction to a bad one and you get less. So you stop asking, how do I make myself want this? And start asking, how do I make this easier to start than to skip? Lay tomorrow's clothes out tonight. Put the book on the pillow. Move the phone to the other room so the scroll costs a walk. None of this is willpower. It's architecture, and it works while you sleep, which is the one time your willpower definitely can't help you. You're not becoming a more disciplined person. You're becoming a person who designed a day that needs less discipline. And if you take one tactic from this whole video, take this one. It's called the 2-minute version, and it's the single move that turns forcing into designing. The rule is simple. Shrink the starting point of any habit until it takes 2 minutes or less. Read more becomes read 1 page. Work out becomes put on the shoes. Write the book becomes open the document and write 1 sentence. People resist this because it feels too easy to matter. Trust the easy. The hard part of nearly every habit isn't continuing, it's starting. Once the shoes are on, the walk often happens. Once there's 1 sentence on the page, the next one comes. You can pair it with what psychologists call an implementation intention, a plain if-then plan. If it's right after my morning coffee, then I read 1 page. A meta-analysis of 94 studies by Goldwitzer and Sheeran found that deciding the exact when and where in advance produces a large, reliable jump in follow-through. You're not lowering your ambition, you're lowering the cost of beginning until starting is almost free. So picture who you become when the system runs without the war. You wake up and the day is mostly already designed. The shoes are by the door, the book is on the pillow, the path is worn smooth. So you don't spend your 1 tank of morning willpower just deciding to begin. You miss a day and nothing shatters, because there was never a fragile tower to defend. You have a genuinely terrible week and the habit survives it, because it was built for exactly that week. And slowly, without ever declaring war on yourself, you become the kind of person who simply does these things. Not because you forced it, but because, as James Clear puts it, every small action was a quiet vote for who you were becoming, and the votes added up. That's the difference between forcing and designing. Forcing makes you dread the person you're trying to be. Designing lets you become them, gently, almost by accident. And here's the part the hustle culture gets exactly backwards. The kindness isn't the soft option. Research by Braines and Chen found that meeting your own slip-ups with self-compassion instead of self-criticism actually increased people's motivation to improve. Being gentle with yourself isn't what makes you quit, it's the thing that lets you come back. So here's your 1 small thing for today. Not a system, not a life overhaul, just 1 move. Pick a single habit you failed at before, only 1, and write down its 2-minute version. The version so small it feels almost silly. 1 page, 1 sentence, the shoes by the door. Then decide, right now, the 1 moment it attaches to. After my morning coffee, after I brush my teeth, the second I close my laptop. That's it. That's the whole assignment. You're not promising to be consistent. You're just designing 1 tiny, forgiving starting point and letting the path begin to wear itself in. And if something in this landed, if you're tired of forcing and ready to try designing, I wrote a short, free guide that lays out the whole gentle system. Rolling windows instead of streaks, the 2-minute rule, and the 1 rule that protects all of it. Never miss twice. It's called The Forgiving Habit, and the link's in the description and pinned in the comments. No cost, no catch. If this is the kind of calm you'd like more of, you're welcome to subscribe and settle in with us. Until next time, be rigorous with your systems and gentle with yourself.